6 really big lasers, but you can see they can get split up into like multiple beams, right? So like one laser can do many beams. But they're really big, massive 30-watt lasers, 3 times bigger than lasers I usually work with. Yeah, it's just, you just go to a browser, it's JavaScript on the phone. It's designed to cope with tens of thousands of people. So we've done it in Leeds and there was 7 sites there, and we've done it in Brighton, there were 3 sites there. So yeah, we really just built it to be really sturdy, even if it was being totally swamped by people. So that's why there are 5 servers all talking to each other. They're all at AWS. The bit that controls I've been writing laser control code for years. Like it's all C++ in open frameworks. So there's like an app running at the laser end on a computer that's controlling the lasers. That's talking via a node app to the servers. There's one main server that's in charge of everything. That's what the lasers talk to. But the phones connect to like servers in between that relay it onto the main server. So yeah, it's point to point, narrow beam, transmitter, receiver, just because there's no Wi-Fi on the pier. There's no network on the pier, right? So we could use 4G. In fact, we've got 4G as a backup over there, but this is something we haven't tried before, actually. But the next place where we go, there'll be lots of sites with no broadband, so we're sort of testing this out. It seems to be working really well. It's good. There's always a queue of people, right? We can adjust how long they control the lasers for, depending on how busy it is. But honestly, we've found that because there's always a queue, we've never really been able to increase that. So it's always mostly been 30 seconds. So then you can just calculate how many people come through. Like for this, we've worked out there's over 3,000 turns on the lasers in one night, 6,000 over 2 nights. We can sort of guess how many people that is, but I suppose bear in mind that there are people enjoying it with their kids and loads of people just looking at the lasers. So, I think it would be plausible to say 10,000 people have enjoyed this at least. And in Leeds, we think it was like 30,000 or something like that, 60,000, I don't know, tens of thousands. I do all these big interactive art installations, but they're usually just like one app, right? It's like, or one system. There's often elements like different hardware and stuff, but usually it's one bit of code. But with this, it's such a complex development. And whenever I want to add something, like I want to add some new effects to the laser, I've been working on that. But I've got to program the bit that at the laser end in C++. I've got to program the bit on the phone end, the user experience, the interface. And then I've got to program all the bits in the middle and add all the new bits of communications to all the servers. Yeah, so it's a really complex project. Obviously, it's just an enormous network system. So it's actually, most of the code for this is really mundane. Right. It's like network protocols and optimization and latency reduction and So it's like the fun bits, the laser bits, probably, I spent a week on that or something. The rest was like 3 months of solid work. It's it's a big project. It's all custom, because it's all Node.js. I did a brief bit of looking into proxy server systems and stuff, but none of them were just really ready to go. And it would have been a whole investment in time just understanding how they work to a level where I'd be confident in them. And I thought, well, proxy system isn't really that, it's fiddly as but it's not, you can bleep it out. It's not really conceptually that complex, right? So I just thought, I'd rather do it myself, then I've got full control over it. I'm not relying on it. There's so much bulky engineering in the JavaScript world, isn't there? Then I just don't ever trust it unless I was going to devote a year of my life to understanding a framework. I'm just not going to do it. No. I'd rather use my own terrible code than someone else's. But the other really weird thing about this was that the actual system was built pretty quickly, I suppose, in a few weeks. So the whole system was held together. But then it was like a whole other thing to actually build an admin system. The servers were off doing their thing and it was working great, but I had no idea what was happening. So it's almost as big, if not a bigger process to actually make an admin system. Right. So there's a whole other network protocol involved in my browser-based admin system talking to those servers, and obviously I've got to authorize it and make sure it's secure. And in fact, there's so many more types of messages between the admin system and the servers than there is between the phones and the servers, or even between the servers. So it's like just being able to have some sort of insight and control over what's going on was like way bigger than just building the system to connect all the phones and the lasers together. It's nuts. Well, let's start when I was 10.
Okay.
You got some time, right?
Yeah. As long as you have.
I mean, really, I was always a creative kid, and I liked drawing. And so when my dad brought home the first computers, I just wanted to draw pictures with them. Okay. But this would have been like early 80s.
So what was that?
There's no Photoshop or anything.
Like
I mean, he brought home a few sort of obscure computers. I think there might have been a ZX80 at one point. And there was this little Philips calculator computer thing that I learnt BASIC on. But really the best thing was when he brought home a BBC Micro, right? That was, so good to draw little sprites. And I accidentally learned binary, right? Because to get the tiles built, you had to find the binary numbers for each row. I didn't know that was what I was learning, but the 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, add the numbers that you want the pixel in. And now it's like, I learned binary by accident. But that was always my motivation for computers, was to make nice things. I guess I've always been a bit sort of technical as well, and puzzle solving. Yeah. And I suppose when you learn code at 11, that melds in well, doesn't it, into your brain. You've got a squishy brain at that point. Yeah. Anyway, let's fast forward. I went through Amigas as well, doing drawings and animations and music. I was actually an Amiga coder, my first job. Right. I was brought in to do graphics, but there wasn't enough graphics, so I learnt Amos, and then I learnt C. Yeah. And then I moved, a bit later, I moved into web stuff. Websites were blowing up then, right? So I used all the web stuff, and then I wanted to do more. I did a bit of Director, actually, and I learnt Flash. Then I did Flash games, so early 2000s I was making Flash games. Set up Plug-in Media in Brighton, made a load of Flash games, won a load of awards. Then I left them, but they're doing great still. I left them probably about 10 years ago to sort of work on this kind of thing a bit more. Yeah, and so since then, loads of C++, open frameworks, bit of JavaScript, obviously, with the phone stuff. It's quite a bit of phone things I do. Loads of electronics, actually. So my plan this year was to continue with like my fireworks project, which uses touch light sticks, 2-meter tall light sticks that you touch. And the LEDs sort of flash up the stick. When they get to the end, people showing their appreciation, it's very sweet. When they get to the end, like the laser carries on the fireworks up the building. Oh, cool. And so my ambition is to replace fireworks. And I did the first installation of this project in Aberdeen in February. Right. And then, of course, everything was cancelled. Yeah. And I was like, well, what do I do now? So I messed around for a bit, not really knowing what I was doing. And then there was the whole NHS thing. So I thought, let's fire up some lasers for the NHS. Ah. And I realized that people really loved just seeing lasers flying around. So that started me off on this whole process of researching these really big lasers and trying to come up with an idea that would work with social distancing, that you could just enjoy from afar. You didn't have to touch anything. You didn't have to come near anyone else. And that's really where this was born. Because I thought there'd be loads of light festivals that just had they couldn't really move forward. Like I had light festivals who had wanted to commission me for the fireworks, but it was just stuck. But I thought, well, if I come up with something that I can offer these festivals that they can just go ahead with no matter what, then maybe that's a good thing. And thankfully, Light Night Leeds really went for it in a big way. Cool. So they replaced more or less their entire festival with just this project on 7 sites, enormous, like the biggest project I've ever built, really. So I'm very thankful to them for, showing their faith in the project, So it's ironically, it's turned into like my most successful year. I've owned now 12 of these massive lasers. Wow. Yeah, so it's been a very strange but incredibly successful year for me.
Yeah, okay, well, thank you very much. I think that's,
that's about covers it, doesn't it? Got my whole life story.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah?
Can you tell us what a laser is?
Not really. I mean, I know a lot about controlling them and making them look good, And I even know the electronics inside, and I know a bit about the optics inside as well. So like these lasers, they're RGB. They've got 3 colors of beams that are combined together using mirrors and dichroic mirrors, right, that let one color through and reflect another color. So they all hit these mirrors and join together. And then red and green and blue modules are often made out of multiple diodes, all combined into a single. When you get to this sort of size of laser, like there might be 20 red diodes just making one red color. So if it hits a cloud, you sort of see a dot or whatever the shape happens to be. There's a few shapes on this you might have noticed. There's triangles and circles, and when it spreads out into a fan. So when there are clouds, it will hit the clouds and you'll see it. When there aren't clouds, it's really strange. The laser beam just sort of stops in midair. It's really weird. And the reason for that is because actually, as the laser sort of goes into the distance, the amount that it travels becomes vastly greater very quickly. And so what you're seeing is like actually a very, very long distance, but it's compressed into perspective. So it looks like it literally stops, but actually it's going and fading out over a great distance. It's very strange. Yeah. But yeah, it depends on the conditions. But in Leeds, we had reports from like 40, 50 miles away. Really? Today, I had someone in Billingshurst said they could see it. Oh, cool. And that's 20 miles away, I think. Yeah. So it's always difficult to know how wide out you should do them because they always look better if they're just coming towards you. But I guess we wanted to make sure a wide enough area could see them. I'd quite like if Brighton could see it, right? My wife was going to walk on the beach today and see if she could see them. We had to pull them in a bit the last couple of days to avoid the airport. Yeah. I mean, really, if the beam is coming towards you, you should be able to see it for many miles. Yeah. Great. Cool. Got everything you need?